A driver can haul a trailer for thousands of miles, follow every rule, check every seal, and still end up unknowingly transporting narcotics without ever opening a single box. It sounds impossible, but law enforcement agencies confirm this happens more often than most people realize, and the methods involved are disturbingly simple. Most drivers targeted this way never see it coming, because the entire scheme depends on the driver having absolutely no idea anything is wrong. So how exactly do smugglers turn an honest, careful driver into an unwitting part of a trafficking operation? Like this video and subscribe now for more of these kinds of stories, because the actual methods are far more clever than most people expect. And here is a real question for the comments. Before watching this, did you know something like this was even possible? Say your honest answer below. That is exactly what we are breaking down today. The most common method involves what investigators call trailer piggybacking. This happens when someone accesses an already loaded, legitimate trailer, usually while it sits unattended overnight at a truck stop, warehouse, or rest area, and adds a hidden shipment somewhere inside the load without disturbing the original cargo or the seal. Because the trailer already contains a legal shipment with proper paperwork, the driver has no reason to suspect anything changed. The seal on the door often remains intact, since experienced smugglers know exactly how to access certain trailer types without breaking factory seals at all. If you have ever had your trailer parked overnight somewhere you could not personally watch it, drop a comment on how often that actually happens on a normal route. I want to know how common this exposure really is. A second method targets drivers hauling produce, bulk goods, or palletized freight, where individual boxes or containers within a larger shipment are far harder to inspect thoroughly. Smugglers sometimes work with corrupt employees at loading facilities to insert compromised pallets directly into a legitimate shipment before the driver ever arrives to pick it up. In these cases, the driver receives a manifest that appears completely normal, loads the trailer exactly as instructed, and has no realistic way to identify which specific pallet among dozens actually contains something illegal. Poor security infrastructure is the third pattern that shows up constantly in driver reports. Stops without functioning security cameras, without adequate lighting across the entire parking area, or without any regular staff presence patrolling the lot overnight, create ideal conditions for this kind of tampering to happen undetected. Quick pause. If this kind of real trucking security breakdown interests you, hit subscribe now so you do not miss the next one, because the part about GPS tracking devices is even more concerning. GPS tracking devices represent one of the more sophisticated tactics investigators have documented. Smugglers sometimes attach small, battery-powered tracking devices to the undercarriage or landing gear of a trailer suspected of carrying a hidden shipment, allowing them to monitor the truck's exact location in real time without the driver ever knowing a device exists. This tracking allows a separate crew to intercept the trailer at a predetermined point along the route, retrieve the hidden cargo, and disappear, all without the driver stopping, noticing anything unusual, or even realizing their trailer briefly became part of a trafficking operation. Route predictability plays directly into this scheme. Drivers running the same regular route for the same company, using the same rest stops on a consistent schedule, become easier targets simply because their movements are predictable enough for a smuggling operation to plan around in advance. This is not about any single company or route being unsafe. It is about the surrounding pattern of predictable behavior that any driver can unintentionally create over months or years of running familiar freight lanes. Border regions and major distribution corridors see this tactic used most frequently, since proximity to international crossing points makes those specific routes more attractive to organized trafficking networks looking for legitimate-looking cover for illegal shipments. Drivers hauling freight through these higher-risk corridors are sometimes specifically targeted based on their trailer type, since certain refrigerated or enclosed trailers offer better concealment options than flatbeds or open carriers that are easier to visually inspect at a glance. Communication networks among drivers have become one of the most effective tools for spotting this kind of exposure before it happens. Trucking forums and safety apps increasingly share warnings about specific rest areas or loading facilities where tampering incidents have been reported, letting other drivers avoid the same vulnerable stops. This informal, crowdsourced awareness functions almost like an early warning system, often catching patterns law enforcement has not officially confirmed yet, simply because drivers notice unusual activity around their trailers faster than any formal investigation typically moves. Quick pause. If this kind of practical driver safety knowledge interests you, hit subscribe now so you do not miss the next one, because knowing the warning signs matters more than most drivers realize. Physical warning signs do exist for drivers who know what to look for. A seal that looks slightly different from the one applied at pickup, scuff marks near the trailer doors or landing gear that were not there before, or unexplained weight discrepancies noticed during a routine scale check can all indicate tampering occurred somewhere along the route. Experienced drivers develop the habit of photographing their seal number and trailer condition at every single stop, creating a simple paper trail that can prove exactly when and where any tampering may have occurred, which becomes critical if a driver ever needs to demonstrate they had no knowledge of a hidden shipment. This documentation habit matters enormously from a legal standpoint. Drivers who unknowingly transport narcotics can still face serious legal consequences if they cannot demonstrate reasonable diligence, which is why maintaining consistent records of seal numbers, trailer inspections, and parking locations has become standard practice among experienced long-haul drivers. Reporting anything suspicious immediately, rather than waiting until delivery, also protects drivers significantly. Contacting dispatch, law enforcement, or company safety officers the moment something feels wrong with a trailer creates a documented timeline that works in the driver's favor if an investigation ever follows. So why do these tactics keep working, even as awareness around this issue continues to grow across the industry? Because the entire scheme depends on drivers having no reason to suspect anything. Trailers that look completely normal from the outside can hide sophisticated tampering that only becomes visible under close inspection, and predictable routines make even the most careful drivers vulnerable without them ever realizing it. It is not about carelessness. It is about recognizing that vigilance, documentation, and awareness of these specific tactics can be the difference between finishing a route normally and unknowingly becoming part of a federal investigation. If you are an actual driver, do you check your seal number and trailer condition at every single stop, or only occasionally? Drop it in the comments. And if you have never driven a truck at all, does this change how you think about what actually happens behind the scenes on the freight routes that keep store shelves stocked? Subscribe if you want more of the real security knowledge that protects drivers from threats they never see coming.